All right, y'all, welcome to test review for test number 3 for algebraic reasoning. Let's run through this. Let's see how to solve all the different types of problems that we've been exposed to this 6 weeks. So, the first one is a minus 23 equals 7. The goal here is to isolate a. Now, if you do have a minus 23, we know the opposite of subtraction is addition. We'll add 23 to both sides. And so a equals 30. And here's our answer. So also please note that you can always take your answer, which is 30, substitute it back in, and see 30 minus 23 does in fact give you 7, which it does. Okay, next one. X plus 8 equals negative 12. What's my next move? Well, the goal again is to get the variable by itself. So here, instead of in the previous example where we're subtracting, now we're adding, so we will do the opposite, which now means that we're going to subtract. Want to stress also that the truth is that while a byproduct of what you're doing is you're doing the opposite. The real reason why you do the opposite is because you're trying to get rid of the 8. So by subtracting 8, you get rid of the 8, and what you do to one side, you do to the other. In any case, x is equal to negative 20, and 20 plus 8 is negative 12. Let's look at the next one. So we have 1/4 x equals negative 9. The goal here is to isolate the variable. If we are multiplying by 1/4, the opposite of multiplication is division. But what division really is multiplying by the reciprocal. So I like to think whenever you have a number next to a letter, what you want to do here, or when you have a coefficient in front of a variable, is you want to multiply the coefficient, which is just the number in front, by the reciprocal. This will cancel these out or divide them out, and I'm left with x equals negative 9 times 4, which means x is equal to negative 36. There's my answer. Let's look at the next one. So we have negative 4/5 s equals 1/7. So this is actually the same thing as the last question. So we multiplied by the reciprocal, so we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. What happens here is obviously on the left side it cancels out, so there's only s. On the right side, what we realize is that there is nothing divides out, so that's okay. We just do 1 times 5, which is 5. 7 times negative 4 is negative 28. And there's our answer. Okay, next one. All right, so we have here 9x plus 15x equals 19. Now what I want to stress here is that unlike every problem that we've had thus far, now we have 2 x's on the same side. And this is where we're the first time that we're going to see what we call combining like terms. So every equation has a sort of funneling effect that it should be transpiring, where you're bringing things closer and closer together. Here we have an x, 9x, and we have 15x, which means we have literally 9 x's and we have 15 x's. So when you merge them together, you get 24 x's, which is equal to 19. And so if I divide through by 24, x is 19 over 24, which is D. All right, so this is another one. This was a commonly missed question on the first exam. And the goal here is when you see a negative sign, you can always think of it as a negative 1. So you're multiplying through by negative 1 here, and you're multiplying through by negative 1 here. And so if the goal is to get x by itself, much like these other problems, you could even say you multiply by the reciprocal, but I'm just going to say I'm going to divide through by negative 1, which would actually be the same thing, and x is 15. Keep in mind also, by the way, you could also say you multiply through by negative 1. All right, so over here, we're going to try to combine like terms when we start. So we have 10 plus 6p equals 7p, but we can't put 10 and 6p together. And the reason we can't put 10 and 6p together is they are not like terms. So instead, what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to get the p's together. So how do I get my p's together? Well, if I have, notice that this says a plus 6p, so the opposite of plus 6p is minus 6p, so I'm going to subtract 6p from both sides. You get 10 equals, now this is nice because 7 minus 6 is 1, so this is 10 is p. And again, you could substitute to check. So notice here, this is really easy. This is 6 times 10. This is 7 times 10. So 10 plus 60, 6 times 10 is 60, does equal to 70. And again, on a test, I highly encourage doing things like that to make sure that you didn't make a silly mistake. All right, so here we have parentheses. So this is trying to scare you with the parentheses. But if you have any doubts of what to do with parentheses, you're going to do this action here, which is called distribution. So this is going to give me 5y plus 30 equals 6y minus 12. And once more, we're going to try to combine like terms on the left and the right side. What happens here is on the left side and on the right side, these numbers are not alike. So in other words, 5y and 30 are not like terms, and 6y minus 12 are not like terms. However, this technically is a plus 5y, so I could subtract 5y from both sides, and I could put my y's together. Note also, if I wanted to, I could subtract 6y to the other side, and I would get negative y. I did the initial step of subtracting 5y because I wanted to keep y positive. So one of the goals that we always try to do is we try to keep things positive as long as possible. Now that I have negative 12, the opposite of subtraction is addition, so I'll add 12 to both sides, and I'll get 42 equals to y. Okay, I'm not going to do this, but if I wanted to, I could take 42 and plug it in and test both sides to see if they're equivalent. All right, let's look at the next one. So 9 minus 2x equals 4x minus 3x plus 3. So we know the first step is if we do have like terms, we want to put them together. So I look at 9 minus 2x. Those are not alike. There's nothing I can do there. But when I look on the right side, I do see 4x minus 3x, which is x. So I can put those two together. And now we're very much like the previous questions here and here. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to put my x's together. I'm going to add 2x to both sides. And the reason why I'm going to add 2x to both sides is I want these to go away. And I want to keep what I arrive with on the right side, which is 3x, positive. I'm going to stay positive as long as possible. Next up, I'm going to put my numbers together. So if I have plus 3, the opposite of addition is subtraction. So we're going to subtract 3. So 6 equals 3x, and the opposite of multiplication is division, so I'll divide through by 3, and x is 2. Cool beans. All right, next up, let's look at this one. So we have 6 times the quantity x plus 1 plus 15 equals 3 times the quantity x plus 4 plus 12. And we want to clean this up. So what I'm going to do, there's a couple ways of doing this. The most common way of doing this would be to distribute. Okay, so you can distribute and then you would combine like terms, and that's perfectly fine. I'm going to do something a little different, however. Okay, so just to give you another experience than probably what you're thinking, and you can compare to it if you're thinking in the original way. If you look at 6, 15, 3, and 12, what do we notice about all those numbers? We see that they're all divisible by 3. So we're going to divide through by 3, and they're going to get 2 times the quantity x plus 1 plus 5 equals x plus 4 plus 4. And what I've done is I saw that everything was a multiple of 3, so I just divided through. And when I say everything, I'm referring to terms. So each of these are a term. Now I'm going to distribute 2. Get 2x plus 2 plus 5 equals x plus 4 plus 4. And from here, I can combine like terms. So we see you have 2 and 5, which gives me 7. Here we have 4 and 4, which gives me 8. And then we'll put our x's together. So since this is positive, I'm going to subtract x from both sides. And then because we're adding 7, I'll subtract 7 from both sides. And x is 1. Okay. All right, moving on. Okay, so this is where we start to get into some a little more fancy stuff. And my advice, and there are many ways of solving this, but my advice is to get rid of the fraction. So what I want to multiply through by is a number that gets rid of 4 and 2. Now this, fortunately, is pretty straightforward. It's going to be 4, so I'm going to be left with 4 times x over 4 minus 4 times 8 equals 4 times x over 2 plus 4 times 6. And where this is coming from, I'm distributing 4 into each of these. So the next question that should pop in your head is why? Well, that's because 4 divided by 4 is 1. I'm just going to go ahead and clean that up. 4 times 8 is 32. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 4 times 6 is 24. All right, again, my aim is to subtract x from both sides because I'm trying to keep x positive. And then to finish it off, I'm going to subtract 24. And this is going to give me negative 56. And there's my answer. Again, I look at this and just want to stress that I see 56, I see 7 over 2, I see negative 56, and I see negative 7 over 2. So you can see some of the issues here, which is you want to watch those signs very carefully so you don't make a silly mistake. All right. So let's look at this question here. We have x plus 8 over 6 plus x minus 3 over 5 equals 11 over 10. So this is a nice problem because it's not necessarily apparent what the number that we'll multiply through by to get rid of the denominators is. This is also called the GCF. I'm sorry, the LCM. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to start with the biggest number, and we're going to ask ourselves, does 6 go into 10? So we're going to take the biggest number and we're going to see if the smaller ones can go into it. Can we divide it evenly? So that's not going to work. So we go to the next one. Next one being the next multiple. So 10 times 1 is 10. 10 times 2 is 20. Can we divide 6? Can 6 go into 20 evenly? No. Let's go to the next one. 30. Can 6 go into 30 evenly? Aha, that's true. Right? So then we check with the next number, which is 5. Does 30 divided by 5 work? Aha, it does. It's 6. So that is our number. We're going to use 30. So we're going to multiply everything through by 30. And when we do this, we get 30 times x plus 8 over 6 plus 30 times x minus 3 over 5 equals 30 times 11 over 10. Okay, again, why do we multiply by 30? Because 30 divided by 6 is 5, 30 divided by 5 is 6, and 30 divided by 10 is 3. We got rid of the fractions. So the goal here is to get rid of the fractions, and then once we do that, now we're right back to the same sort of problems that we're used to solving. So distribution is the next step. So we get 5x plus 40, distribute here as well, which is 6x minus 18 equals 3 times 11 is 33. Okay, so from here, we're going to combine like terms. So if I have 5x and 6x, that's a total of 11x. And if I have 40 minus 18, that's 30 minus 8, which is 22. Equals 33. So again, the goal here is to combine things that are alike. So we have numbers on the right side. So we're going to subtract 22, which is 11x equals 11. So it should be pretty apparent here that x is 1, but if you wanted to divide, see x is 1. And there's our answer. On to the next one. Remember also, you can always check your answers. Okay, so here we have 1.4x plus 21.6 equals 4.1x. And not everybody did this on the, but my recommendation is multiply through by 10. So now when you play with this, you're playing with whole numbers. Why play with decimals if you don't have to? So what do we do here? So this looks a little strange, but we're going to subtract 14x to combine our x's. And to finish this off, we're going to divide by 27. So what is 216 over 27? You could use a calculator to simplify it, but that's too easy for me, so I'm going to break this down. So 216 is 6 times 6 times 6. Just to prove it, 6 times 6 is 36. 36 times 6 is going to give me 3 times 6 is 18 plus 3 is 216. So, and then 27 is 3 times 3 times 3. So one little hint here is that you do in time want to memorize your powers, and I knew that 216 was 6 times 6 times 6 because I know 6 cubed is 216, and the same thing with 27. 3 times 3 times 3 is 9, which is 27. So from here, we know that 6 and 3s are all divisible by 2, so this is actually 2 times 2 times 2, or simply 8. And there's our answer. Let's move on. So here, this is very similar to the flip grid. We are given 0.02y plus 0.15 times the quantity 7,000 minus y equals 0.12y. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply through by 100, because 100 would move the decimal place two spots over, and leave me with just with 2y plus 15 times 7,000 minus y equals 12y. In other words, we don't have any more decimals. So now we're going to solve it. We're going to distribute the 15 here. So we're going to get 2y plus, so let's see here. So the way that I want to think about 15 times 7 is, well, let me just do it like this. I don't want to confuse you. So this is going to give me 105. And then because I have 3 zeros, 1, 2, 3, minus 15y equals 12y. Okay. Now, very, very important, this next move. So realize before you start moving things around, you have negative 15y here, you have 2y. So you can put those two together. It gives us this, again, the nice sort of like funneling effect. And now I'm going to add 13y to both sides. And to finish the question off, we're going to divide by 25. So this is going to be difficult. We can probably use a calculator to do this. So if we do this correctly, we're going to get 4,200. So this is an interesting question. So let's rewrite it. So this is 5 times quantity x plus 3 equals 5x plus 15. And the reason why I say it's interesting is that if you distribute the 5, you get 5x plus 15 equals 5x plus 15. Now, when the left and the right match up, that means it's all reals. And if you think about it, the reason why that it would be the case is that any number I plug in for x from 0, let's say 0, you get 15 equals 15. 1, you get 20 equals 20. 2, you get 25 equals 25. But any number that you substitute in will work. And when that happens, the answer is all reals. Okay, let's do the next one. So now when we distribute, something else happens here. We get 2x plus 14 equals 2x minus 28. Notice that the 2x's and 2x cancel out, and so I'm left with 14 is equal to negative 28. Now we know that 14 does not in fact equal negative 28, which means that this always simplifies to something that doesn't have a solution, and hence the answer is the empty set. And one thing I haven't mentioned before, but I'm going to do here is show you that, I mean, think about it. It doesn't matter. 2 times something on both sides means they're going to cancel out. 2 times something on both sides means that there's whatever that something is. You got something on the left, something on the right. They're going to cancel out. And we're just left with 14 equals negative 28. Cool. All right, now the next one, we talked about these literal equations. So if you're solving for h, remember, when letters are next to each other, they're being multiplied. What's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So V over LW is H. Just like that. All right. So these next questions come from what you guys missed in the Khan Academy section. Let's see if we can do this. Rachel earned $34. So Rachel earned $34 in 4 hours. She wants to know how much money she could earn tomorrow if she works 10 hours. So you'll see here that what I've done is created a proportion. So we'll cross multiply. 34 times 10 equals 4x. And to finish it, we'll divide through by 4. So one cool thing about this is that if I look at it, 4 goes into 34 17 times, but I have 2 left over. And then 2 goes into 10 5 times. So I'm left with 17 times 5. The answer is 85. So hopefully that makes sense. Next one. So this one I thought was very important because you're doing something you may have to do in the future, which is isolate the slope. So the first move is move the constant. So we're going to subtract b, and y minus b equals mx. And then the big last step is we're going to divide through by x, so you get m by itself. And there's my answer. Last one. We're just going to make sure we set this up right. So this is something we talked about in class. 8 books is $19.60. So 8 books cost me $19.60. And we want to know how much it would cost for 10. So this would be 10 and this would be x. So remember what I said last time. I said all you have to do is if you cross multiply 8x equals 10, 1960 times 10. And now you're just going to cross multiply each of these and look for 8x equals 1960 times 10. So if we do the first one, we get x times 1960, which is wrong. The second one, we get 1960x. That's going to be wrong. The next one, that's not going to work. We're getting 10 times x. And the next is wrong. So the only answer that makes sense is E. And there you have it. So that's it. Hopefully that makes sense, and I'll see you all in the next video.